brother. Nice.
What's going on?
Hey, man. How was your summer? Not bad?
Sweet.
New car.
Yeah.
No radio.
What's with the camera?
Oh, well, shoot. Actually, let me throw this mic on you. You know that interview I wanted to do before you left town?
All right.
I had this intense thing go on, and I wanted to share it with you, and I don't know any other Muslim people, so it's kind of awesome that you're willing to talk about it, and I don't want to just jump on this, but it's like, it's really important. It's been eating at me since you've been gone. I actually met this guy and was going to talk to him about it for a while, but kind of has to do with the accident, really.
So tell me what happened, man. How's the recovery?
All right, let me try and give you the short version of it. You left, you kind of got me all interested in figuring out how you could coexist. And so I started doing some research online and all this shit, but then you were gone and we couldn't talk about it, so it was just stewing in me. And earlier in the summer, in the spring, I went camping out in Utah. So I started camping with this dude and hanging out with him. Awesome. I don't really even know his name, but he told it to me, and he was like, can I just call you Mo? So I started calling this guy Mo. He's calling me Pluto. Slow. Fair enough. And anyway, so we hung out for days and days and days, and he just got along great. He was telling me, oh God, we gotta get away from the smoky guy. He told me he was a Muslim, and I was like, oh, cool, can we talk? I got a million questions. My biggest one was I saw this thing online about how a lot of this stuff in the Quran's about being peaceful and awesome and wonderful.
Absolutely,
and then this video I saw online was saying how what you need to do is pretend to be cool and peaceful and wonderful, but then when you outnumber the people you're around, then you gotta, perform some sort of complete the test by killing infidels or whatever. And I was like, whoa, is that built into that, or did that come later? What do you know?
It's interesting. People's take on terrorism and Islam, and there's nowhere in the Quran where it states that if somebody is not of this faith, they're wrong. There is nowhere in any way, shape, or form that says that anybody who does harm on another person is a terrorist, whether they're of any faith. And Islam in general is, a very peaceful religion, and it teaches a lot of peace. It's unfortunate how there's some extremists that do take it a little too far, and they take things in the Quran a little too literal in a sense.
Like the death penalty for homosexuality or leaving the religion? It's pretty harsh.
I think years ago when these New Testaments came out for all these books, that there was that sort of like, you need to worship me, or you need to, something that was just in there that made you have to believe in all this other extra stuff,
and to jump through hoops.
I think in the beginning, all these books were very basic and just said you need to have faith, you need to believe in God, you need to believe in good, in a greater good, and then later on it just kind of became a very big power struggle. There's actually not very many differences between the Quran and the Bible. For instance, one of the biggest differences is Jesus. In Christianity, it's believed that Jesus is God's son, and in Islam, in the Quran, God doesn't have any sons. He just has these messengers, these prophets.
Okay.
Mohammed, Jesus is actually in the Quran. He is one of the prophets. He's just not God's son. We're all God's children.
Right.
For the most part,
sure.
And
but wasn't it like Abraham was the dad who started churches, and then he had a bunch of sons, and each one started their own church, or
kind of in a sense.
Family
they all
business?
They all kind of sent a message, or were told to send a message. In the Quran, it says that people who do wrong, that everybody is going to do wrong in a sense. You try your best to go in a straight path, but if you do stray away, in the end, and at Judgment Day, your wrongs and your rights are kind of balanced, and the biggest sins are, of course, murder. To kill another human being is number one in the Quran. That's wrong.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and one of the first opening surah, they're called surahs in the Quran, just different passages, is the Fatiha, which is the opening recite, and it's Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, which basically means there is no one greater than God, and banish all evil. That's basically what it says, and in the opening of the Quran, of this holy book, and it's the Fatiha has one of the greatest surahs of all time because it's that intro.
Wow. Well, you can see how that's open to interpretation, huh? All right. So we were talking about this too. Me and this guy Mo, we started getting into this stuff, and he, like you, was saying that there's an inner compass that we're supposed to follow, not so much what other people say, because people are flawed. And he started telling me all this about how, like some people, if they're offered money and they believe they're doing what they should be doing religiously, they'll join these extremist things because they've been told by their parents, by their culture, like you're saying. But he was saying that if you lived on a desert island and never had contact with any books, right? Mm-hmm. Those people aren't automatically doomed because they don't know what the quiz or the test is. If they're good people on this island, even though they don't, devote their, they're not going to be following Muhammad's lead or following stuff in a book, as long as
that their soul is pure, in a sense that they know right from wrong as well as they do.
It's plugged into our heart. It's like a covenant between us and God, not us and the church or us and the preacher, right? Everyone's doing and
sadly enough, a lot of people growing up, they just are told something and they follow that and they think that it's right.
Or they think that it's wrong, but do it because they've been told it's right, and they know in their heart that it's not. Okay, so this guy started telling me, first of all, he asked me about what I believe. Do I believe people can channel? Do I believe that in your dreams, or is there a higher way to connect to things mentally? And I believe in channeling. I believe that we don't have all the answers, but that we could tune in to certain things. So he got that I was spiritual but not religious.
Right.
And then he starts telling me, because he started giving me these real definitive answers, like, no, you don't have to do that. No, God was kind of bummed that Muhammad took it that far. After he made me learn the history of it. He's like, okay, Muhammad was in Mecca, got some dreams, had a book pressed onto his heart that he didn't understand, and then finally he really got it and understood the entire Quran, had it memorized in a dream, told some people about it, didn't want to. He was like the reluctant prophet, right? Didn't want to do it. And tell me if I'm wrong about if this sounds because I don't know. Some of this might have been a dream of mine, or your conversation, or this guy's conversation. It's all getting muddied in my head after the accident and the coma and everything. So he was making me learn that after Muhammad got kicked out of Mecca and went to Medina, he was kind of bittered. And he'd already written down the whole Quran or conveyed it in some kind of way. But then he started adding things to it and started battling with the people who killed it or who expelled him, and trying to get more people on his side. And the more people he had on his team, the better chance he had at getting things right for his people and himself. And
I think a lot of it was he didn't really have God's guidance, for a large portion of time, and he just kind of
winging it. And this guy was telling me how his motives became corrupted in a way, and maybe not intentionally, but that since we're all humans and we're all flawed, even Muhammad might have had a dream some night when he was sick and thought that he dreamt something. I don't know that it was intentionally manipulative, like prophet with not a PH but an F. If you join my church and not my brother's church and everyone's on my side, then I have more power. I can go back home. Then we can defend ourselves or whatever. He had a lot of pressures from a war, basically. His followers and him were expelled. So that this guy was telling me how Mohammed was on it for his first 10 years and was a really great, pious guy. And then when he got kicked out, embittered and scared or pressured, he started to slip a little.
Yeah, and for the most part, that definitely is true. You know, once he got expelled, it was kind of a battle between himself and knowing, but at the same time, God kept sending him these messages saying, to keep pushing on, and this is just a test in a sense, like to see if you have that willpower and to have that strength to continue on without my guidance.
Without the guidance. Okay, this is where I get that's kind of why I'm filming it, because I started pushing this guy. It was the third day we were together, and I finally was like, how do you have these, like, this seems strange that you're going against. This guy admitted to me, and he said just before this trip, he had a dream where God came to him, repeated dreams. And he had conversations with God. And I don't know if I believe that this was really God coming into his dreams, or if he just believed, I don't know. But he had these intense sessions where he was arguing or quizzing God, and God was telling him that, like Muhammad, the second that he said, we have to kill people, and jihad wasn't just the fight in your soul for good and bad, but it's, you have to represent my religion over others, and if they don't believe, we have to kill them. When he started adding that kind of talk into his teachings, he got sick and was dead within a year.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, especially because, like I said, it's to bring in the whole killing and all that kind of stuff. That's when that it kind of takes a turn for the worse. A lot of it is within Islam. It's within my culture that they're killing each other, and it's just silly because it's totally against what Islam is, and they just somehow over the years have forgotten that. Because there's not one religion that would tell somebody to go out and do harm onto other people.
Well, maybe that violence started locally at a time when it was used defensively, but now it's global and offensive. So this guy tells me that he's been contacted like the new prophet. He was tasked to go back home and to be like not the Malcolm X of fighting for his people, but more the Martin Luther King version, the Gandhi of the Palestinians, that really all the Muslim people. He was going to go have to fight for their homeland, but not fight. You need a spiritual leader like a Dalai Lama.
Exactly, and that was a good point that you said, a spiritual leader.
And this guy was so sweet and so, I don't know, I've never been in the presence of anyone who made me feel, it was bizarre. It was this bizarre experience to camp out with this guy. He had told no one else yet. I was the first person he told that he had a message to bring to your people. He was going to negotiate for a homeland and represent you guys in a way that the world could respect and tell everyone who were leaders trying to get power and get followers by scaring them into these wars. And
especially now, especially over there, it's things are kind of up in arms, for the past hundreds of years.
Kind of leader, right?
Definitely somebody definitely needs to step up. And
so for you guys have been struggling. So God decided to give this guy an update to give you a new clue as to how to pass the test and to trust your moral compass and to not listen to other people. Because even Muhammad, if he could be tainted or mistaken with his teachings and how he thinks that you got to serve God the best, how are these other guys and and Omars and all the people that are trying to lead your people and manipulate them to as a power grab? That's a real human mission, not so
Yeah,
much
and I totally
higher
agree.
mission,
And, you know, that's all guys with power that take it into their hands. And, you know, it's not the way of Islam. It's not the way of the Quran or God's teachings. You know, it's just something that they take into their hands and tell people to, you know, be violent with it.
Right, and I heard someone say on some video, it was like some terrorists that had been rehabbed, and they brought him back. And one of the ways they did that, he just joined because someone came to his door and said, "Do you want a job?
Yeah.
Here's a gun, fight for your religion," and he bought into it. But then when they were trying to mess with his brain, they were like, "Well, why didn't Mohammed kill his neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have to kill everyone who doesn't believe, why didn't he kill his neighbor? And isn't that an example?" So tell me if I'm wrong about if this sounds like, because I don't know. Some of this might have been a dream of mine, or your conversation, or this guy's conversation. It's all getting muddied in my head after the accident and the coma and everything. So, and I'm trying to get back to that whole what happened to the van and how I almost died. But this kid needed to get to the airport at the crack of dawn, so we just went near. We got out of the woods. We drove to a campground near the airport. We're camping out, and I was just sleeping in the back. He wakes up. He's driving the van down from up above Junction, and I just, I could tell the car was moving. I heard something like, I don't know, like he saw some deer or elk or some sort of thing, and I don't know, dude, the car jumped. I got flung out the back.
Jesus.
And the van went over a cliff. And I found out later, because when I got knocked out, I was knocked out. I woke up in a hospital. The van was gone, and the kid died.
Oh, man,
I don't know,
terrible.
He was a kid. He was like 20, he was 25, 30, I don't know, somewhere in there. But he died, and they were asking me about who he was and trying to identify him because that's everything burned. No one knew he was, an exchange student going to school. So I've been trying all summer to figure out who this guy was and no one knows that God reached out to people and had a new plan and a new hint. And I've been carrying this around all summer, waiting for you to come up. But I kind of want to. That's why I'm recording this. I want people to know what I learned in case something happens to me.
Absolutely,
I'm like, wait a minute, and I'm sure God will just pick a new messenger. Yeah. But I started thinking that
nobody knows God's plan, and you never know what's going to happen in the next minute, 2 minutes.
Maybe He made the elk or the goat jump out in front of us because He second thought it. Is God all powerful? Does He control? Because my guy kind of thought that this whole mission was going to kill him. He was pretty resigned to sacrificing himself for your people and was scared to death of it, but really felt honored. And, he was a loving, caring soul that was willing to. He was scared. He was just about to go back. He told me, I was the first person he told, and then he died. So I'm like,
oh, man.
Should young people of your faith be open to their dreams and looking to receive the invite to further the message or to correct? Believe me, I believe everyone should figure out their own religion on their own, and that people around the world and their own cultures should be leading themselves, and I got no business. But as soon as the stuff we were talking about that made it seem like maybe some people believe that they had to kill everyone else until everyone's a follower of your religion, or their job isn't done, like that.
Yeah,
that invites me to the conversation when my family has to die.
And it's and another example of that too is kind of like in the whole Nazi regime. It's just a group of people that just believe everything should be this way and forced tons of people into feeling that way and following these unbelievably wrong
right, because to me
beliefs.
To kill another one of someone that God bothered to create, you're gonna kill them for it. judgment's God's deal.
Yeah, and
you
that's
don't have to play that game. It's God. He can handle it.
And another thing with that, it's it states in the Quran that if you sacrifice yourself for the greater good, of Islam, that you are granted into heaven. But it doesn't really say go kill a bunch of people. Just simply states that if you sacrifice, you sacrifice yourself in the Holy Land, and it's not just anywhere in the world. If you are in the Holy Land and you sacrifice yourself for the greater good, then the gates of heaven are open to you.
If
so it doesn't necessarily
you interpret greater good
exactly
to be one thing,
or
sacrifice.
And it's a shame that again it's people
you serve. But okay, so here's the question: did that little amendment, did that get put in after he went to Medina and not while he was still in Mecca?
That's actually interesting. I'm not quite sure if it's in the Old Testament or if it's in the New Testament, or
because I think he added some things that were more self-serving and not, or maybe he just thought that he got those in a dream and it was an addendum he had to put in there in the appendix of but the original stuff that he got from the Quran that got pressed onto his heart and explained to him, that stuff's supposed to be really, from whatever he said, that's supposed to be true, that's legit word of God kind of stuff, and then the later stuff is not as much.
Yeah, I know there's a large portion in the Quran about Muhammad and about his, what he did for Islam and what he did for God, but
Okay, so you don't have to
mirror
what he did.
Not at all, no, not at all.
Because he was bad to women, or he killed, I don't know. I mean, I just hear, there was this thing online I saw that, I don't know if it's accurate, or if that came from this guy, or it came from this video. It's all a blur to me, but
there's nothing that ever says that Muhammad actually killed anybody or physically, hurt anybody, but, the whole take on women and in the Muslim religion and how there's 9 wives or whatnot. I mean, that's a total misconception as well, because Sharia law is just a way of life that, in certain areas of the Middle East where a man is allowed to have multiple wives, but there's nowhere that states that they have to beat their wives or anything of that nature. A wedding in our religion is very, very big in our culture. Weddings are very, the woman is the most important part in that ceremony, because they hold your children, they have your children.
They are creation.
Exactly.
They're more God's image than us, because they embody and represent creation.
Yeah, absolutely. In the Quran, there's a whole surah about women and about respecting elderly and respecting the person that brought you into life.
Oh, sorry, girl. You getting seasick back there? You okay? Oh, it's a little slick here. Oh, look at that ice.
Yeah, and that's another crazy thing. It's such a small group that makes billions of great Muslims, have to deal with this here in the U.S., and especially because I was here for 9/11, and I saw, my sisters used to cover, and unfortunately my father made them stop covering because he didn't want them to have to deal with that in school and have to deal with that that taunt and that that bullying in school because of a ridiculous group of men, and just more so what's happening here in the U.S. lately. The past 10 years, we've seen more terrorism from white men in the U.S.
The cowboys with guns.
And people are still concerned about these Muslim terrorists. Just for myself, I know that it's not right, and there's a lot of shit that went south. For the most part, something went wrong along the way, and it's not. The system. People should not be massacring other people. In Las Vegas, things like that. And people shouldn't be. I shouldn't be nervous to go in a certain area of a city because I'm afraid that there's a lot of bad people that can do bad things to me. It's it's just not right. And it's just
our diversity
unreal.
Makes us stronger until hate gets exploited, but that's anyway. I just wanted to tell you this story.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was so profoundly moving. This guy, whether he was contacted by God...
Do you think looking at him, you'd be able to tell he was...
I think that he believed sincerely. I mean, he was tearing up to me when he was admitting that that he had this task and that he was contacted, and he was so honored. I mean, it was like I was in the presence of Moses when he came down on the mountain and his hair got white, and they're like, Moses, what have you seen? And he talked to the burning bush. This guy had that same burning bush glow and sincerity that he believed it. Did God change his mind and not want everyone to know? Oh God, the brakes! The steering! I can't steer! Wait a minute, get...
That's good.
It's kind of hairy little... But what if we both got killed right now, right? I mean, we're the only two people who know. So if we died, that's why I've been trying to get this message out here and wanted to do this for a YouTube video, just because, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to tell? What are your plans? You want to take this guy's place and become the leader that the Muslims need?